My name's Wyatt. I'm 26, working as a site foreman right here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's no dream job, endless days, dusty boots, and a clipboard that's seen better times. But it pays the bills and keeps my feet on the ground. I rent a small apartment downtown, one bedroom with a creaky ceiling fan and a view of the parking lot. Life's straightforward. I rise with the dawn, oversee the sites all day, grab a burger on the way home, and maybe catch a game on TV. I don't need more than that. Or so I thought. I've been seeing Nora for months now. She's 24, works in an insurance office, always flashing those bright smiles and infectious laughs. We met through a mutual friend at a backyard barbecue. We clicked over a botched karaoke session and lukewarm beers. She's got this boundless energy, like she's forever plotting her next adventure. But lately, she's been distant, canceling plans, blaming a heavy workload. I figured it was temporary. Relationships have their ups and downs, right? I didn't push. That's not my style. That Thursday, I wrapped up earlier than expected. The crew finished a roof ahead of schedule, so I had a free evening, a real rarity. I decided to surprise Nora, take her for tacos at her favorite spot on Camelback Road. I climbed into my old Ford pickup, the one with the dented fender and a radio that half picks up stations. On the way, I pulled into a gas station and grabbed a small bunch of wildflowers. Nothing fancy, daisies and some purple blooms I couldn't name. I figured it'd make her smile. Nora lives with her mom in a quiet residential neighborhood, a tidy house with a cactus garden out front and a mailbox shaped like a little barn. It's a 20-minute drive from my place, a route I've taken 100 times. I pulled into the driveway as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in oranges and pinks. The air carried the dry desert dust and a faint whiff of barbecue from the neighbors. I ran a hand through my hair in the rear view, grabbed the flowers, and walked up the paved path to the door. I knocked, waiting for her laugh or her usual just a sec through the wood. The door opened, but it wasn't Nora. It was Clara, her mom. She's 45, teaches second grade, widowed for years. I've seen her plenty. Family dinners, the time I fixed her flat tire. She's always been kind, a bit reserved, with this quiet strength that makes you listen when she speaks. That evening, she stood there in jeans and a loose white tee, hair pulled into a messy bun with a few stray strands escaping. She looked elegant, even in the simplicity. But it was her eyes that stopped me cold, piercing, heavy, like she'd been carrying a burden too long. "Wyatt," she said, her voice steady but softened. "Nora's not here, but I'm glad you came. We need to talk." I blinked, caught off guard. The flowers felt ridiculous in my hand, like I'd crashed the wrong party. "Everything okay?" I asked, shifting my weight. My boots scraped the doormat. Clara didn't smile. She just stepped aside, holding the door open. "Come in, please." I hesitated, glancing back at the driveway. Nora's car wasn't there. The house felt too still, like it was holding its breath. I stepped inside, the flowers dangling limply at my side. The living room carried a faint lavender scent, probably from a candle on the coffee table. A small radio in the corner played soft jazz, the kind that murmurs in the background without demanding attention. Clara gestured to the couch, an old beige thing draped with a throw blanket. I sat, feeling the springs groan under me. She settled across from me in an armchair, hands folded in her lap, gaze steady but not cold. "Wyatt," she began, then paused, as if weighing each word. "I need you to hear me out, all the way through. Can you do that?" My stomach twisted. Her tone told me this wasn't about a missed dinner. I nodded, setting the flowers beside me. They looked out of place, like a kid's drawing in a lawyer's office. Clara drew a deep breath, her eyes locked on mine, and I knew her words would change everything. Not just for tonight, but for good. The room felt smaller than I remembered, walls closing in with every tick of silence. She sat there, hands still clasped, fingers intertwined. The radio's jazz hummed low, a saxophone weaving through the air. But it couldn't cut the weight of what was coming. "We need to talk." The words hung heavy, like the desert heat pressing outside. I shifted on the couch, springs protesting again. The wildflowers I'd brought for Nora wilted at my side, as if they already regretted being there. Clara leaned forward a touch, her eyes steady but gentle, like she was careful not to startle me. "Wyatt, I need you to listen all the way and not react until I'm done. Okay? I nodded, throat tight. My mind raced, trying to guess what this was about. Nora wasn't often out this late. She worked overtime sometimes, or so she said. But Clara's face, the way her lips pressed before speaking, told me this wasn't about a skipped meal or a flat tire. I braced myself, hands gripping my knees. She took a slow breath, the kind you draw before dropping a bomb. Nora hasn't been honest with you, she said, voice low but clear. She's seeing someone else. Dylan, her ex. The words hit like a punch to the gut, sharp and heavy. My breath caught, and for a moment, I couldn't move. Dylan? I knew the name. Nora's ex from years back. The one she'd shrugged off like a closed chapter. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my face neutral. How do you know? I asked, my voice rougher than I'd meant. Clara's eyes didn't waver. I've seen them more than once. She claims late nights at the office, overtime, but I've seen Dylan's car in the driveway, late at night. I've heard their voices in her room, when she thinks I'm asleep. She paused, fingers tightening on her knees. Last week, I saw a text on her phone, left on the counter. From him, it wasn't some casual friendly chat. My stomach churned. I wanted to argue, say she was wrong, that Nora wouldn't do that. But the details Dylan's car, the text rang too true, too sharp. I leaned back into the couch, which creaked again. The lavender from the candle started to choke me. Why tell me? I asked. Quieter. You're her mom, shouldn't you? I don't know. Cover for hair? Clara's expression softened, but a flicker of something else crossed it. Guilt, maybe, or fear. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, and for the first time, she looked vulnerable, like she was walking on thin ice. I tried to stay out of it, she said. Nora's my daughter. I love her. But I've watched you, Wyatt. The way you're there for her, how you take care of her, you bring her flowers, for heaven's sake. She glanced at the bouquet, a fleeting smile tugging her lips before it faded. You don't deserve to be lied to. Not like this. I stared at the floor, mind in pieces. The radio shifted to a slower tune, a piano riff too soft for the storm in my head. I wanted details, proof, but deep down, I knew. Nora's late nights, her vague excuses, the way she dodged talks of the future, it all clicked into place. Okay, I said finally, voice barely above a whisper. But why now? Why tonight? Clara hesitated, her hands relaxing, fingers brushing the armrest. When she spoke again, her voice dropped, almost fragile. Because I can't stand seeing you hurt anymore, and because I've been keeping something from you too. She lifted her eyes to mine, and my pulse quickened. I've noticed you, Wyatt. Not just tonight, but for months. Your kindness, your steadiness, the way you fixed the sink last summer, staying late to make sure it was right. The air went still. I stiffened, brain scrambling to process. Feelings for me. Clara Nora's mom, this quiet background presence saying this. It felt wrong, impossible, like the room was tilting. You're serious? I said, more to myself than her. It's not a question, she replied, nodding, her face a mix of resolve and uncertainty. I know it's not right. I know I'm her mom, that I'm older, that it's messy, but I couldn't hide it anymore. Not after what Nora did. You deserve the truth about her, and about how I feel. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. The saxophone faded into static. I didn't know what to say, what to feel. Anger at Nora, shock at Clara, and something else swirling, unnamed. I need time, I said, finally standing. My legs shook, like the floor had gone unsteady. I have to think. Clara rose too, hands clasped in front of her. I understand, she said softly. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed to be honest. I grabbed the flowers, then set them down, realizing they didn't belong. Thanks for telling me, I said flatly. I headed for the door, the desert air hitting my face. The sky was black now, the barbecue scent gone. I climbed into my truck and sat there, hands on the wheel, staring into nothing. Clara's words echoed not just about Nora, but about her. I didn't know what to do with them. Not yet. I drove home on autopilot, Phoenix's skyline blurring past the windshield. The wildflowers I'd bought for Nora stayed on her mom's couch, forgotten, probably wilting already. My truck's radio crackled, stuck on a country station I didn't switch. The twangy guitar felt distant, like it belonged to another life. Clara's words looped. Nora with Dylan, her ex, sneaking around behind my back. And then her confession, that quiet, impossible admission of feelings for me. It was too much, like trying to hold water in cupped hands. I didn't know what to feel. Betrayal, confusion, or something I couldn't name. My apartment was dark when I got back, the silence amplifying every thought. I tossed my keys on the counter, the clink echoing in the empty space. The fridge hummed, and yesterday's pizza scent lingered faintly. I sank onto the bed's edge, staring at my phone. Nora's last text was from yesterday. Late at work, talk tomorrow. I'd believed her. I'd always believed her. Now, every vague excuse, every canceled plan, snapped together like puzzle pieces. I wanted to call, demand answers, but my hands wouldn't move. I sat there, the clock ticking past midnight, mind hooked on Clara's voice. You don't deserve to be lied to. By morning, I knew I couldn't wait anymore. I texted Nora. Meet at the cafe at 10? She replied quick, with emojis and a sure, like nothing was wrong. It twisted in my chest. I barely slept, eyes burning as I drove to our usual diner on Van Buren Street with its chipped mugs and jukebox broken for ages. The air smelled of burnt coffee and bacon grease when I walked in. Nora was already there, in our booth by the window, blonde hair tied back, lost in her phone. She looked up and smiled, bright as ever, but it didn't reach her eyes. Hey, you're early, she said, setting her phone down. What's up, you okay? I slid into the booth, fists clenched under the table. The vinyl seat squeaked. I didn't want to drag it out. Nora, I said, voice firmer than I felt. We need to talk about Dylan. Her smile froze, then cracked. Her eyes darted to the window, the table, anywhere but me. What do you mean? She asked, voice too light, like she could laugh it off. Stop, I said, sharper than intended. Your mom told me everything. She saw him at your place late at night. The texts on your phone. You're seeing him. Nora's face crumpled, hands twisting the napkin edge. Wyatt, it's not what you think, she started, but her voice shook. I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. I leaned back, the booth creaking. The diner's hum-clinking plates. Low murmurs felt too loud. So it's true, I said. Not a question. How long? She dropped her gaze, fingers shredding the napkin now. A few months, she whispered. Dylan and we ran into each other at a bar. It wasn't planned. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you. Hurt me? I said, voice low but hard. You lied, Nora. Every late night, every cancellation. That's what hurts. She started crying, quiet sobs shaking her shoulders. A waitress glanced over, then looked away. I'm sorry, Nora said, wiping her eyes. I thought I could fix it. I love you, Wyatt, but I'm not sure I'm ready for real. Not yet. Dylan. He's familiar. Easy. I didn't yell. I didn't have the energy. I just felt drained, like the air had been sucked from my lungs. You could have told me, I said. I deserved that. I know, she replied, voice breaking. I ruined it. I'm sorry. We sat in silence, the weight of our time together crumbling between us. I thought of nights driving her home, mornings laughing over coffee, plans that now felt like someone else's. It's over, I said finally. Not angry, just empty. I can't. Nora nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I understand, she whispered. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. Can I get my stuff? She asked, voice tiny. I'll drop it off tomorrow, I said, standing. I left cash for the untouched coffee and walked out. The desert sun hit me full force, heat sharp on my skin. I got in the truck, door creaking shut, and drove home. My phone buzzed once, probably Nora, but I didn't check. No more excuses. Back at the apartment, I collapsed on the couch, springs groaning. The room was too quiet, too still. My thoughts kept circling to Clara, her steady voice, her honesty. She hadn't just told me about Nora. She'd laid herself bare too. It took guts, and I didn't know how to take it in. My phone buzzed again. Not Nora this time. A text from Clara. "Hope you're okay. Here if you want to talk." I stared at it, thumb hovering over the screen. I didn't reply. Not yet. But her words felt like a lifeline, pulling me towards something I wasn't ready to name. The week after the breakup felt like trudging through fog. I went to work, checked blueprints, chewed out subcontractors for delays, but it was all mechanical, like someone else was driving. My apartment echoed too much. The fridge's hum and occasional street horns were the only sounds breaking the void. Nora's things, a hoodie, earrings, a half-read book got packed and left at her door the next day. I didn't see her. I didn't want to. Phoenix's desert heat crushed down, the kind that bakes your skin. But inside, I felt hollow, like an empty house stripped of furniture. Clara's text sat unanswered. "Hope you're okay. Here if you want to talk." I read it a dozen times, thumb poised over reply, but words failed. Her honesty about Nora had spared me more lies. But her other admission, her feelings, it was a door I hesitated to open. She was Nora's mom, for crying out loud. Older, wiser, carrying a strength I couldn't quite grasp. Yet every time I thought of her, I saw those eyes, steady and unguarded, stirring something I couldn't ignore. The next Saturday, the fog lifted a bit. I was tired of pacing my place, replaying Nora's tears and apologies. I grabbed my keys, hopped in the truck, and drove to Clara's without overthinking. The front cactus garden was the same. The little barn mailbox too. The air smelled of mesquite and dust, sun low and golden. I knocked, half ready to bolt. The door opened, and there was Clara in a loose sweater and jeans, hair down for once, framing her face. Her eyes widened, surprise turning to a smile. "Wyatt," she said, stepping aside. "I didn't think you'd come." "Me neither," I admitted, voice rough. "But here I am." She led me to the backyard patio, a small wooden table and 2 chairs shaded by a creosote bush. The evening air cooled, carrying distant cicada hums. She poured iced tea, ice clinking against glass, and we sat facing each other. The silence wasn't heavy or light. It felt like we both knew we were stepping into new ground. "How are you holding up?" she asked, voice gentle but direct. I shrugged, watching condensation bead on my glass. "Better than I thought. Worse than I'd like. Free, but empty. You know?" She nodded, a finger tracing her glass rim. "I do. Losing what you thought was real leaves a hole, but it makes room for something else." I looked at her then, really looked. Her face wasn't just pretty. It was lived in, etched by years, raising Nora alone, losing a husband too soon. "Why'd you tell me?" I asked. "About Nora. About you?" She leaned back, chair creaking softly. "Because you deserved the truth. About Nora. Because she was hurting you. About me?" She paused, eyes meeting mine without flinching. "Because I was tired of pretending I felt nothing. I've spent years holding everything in, Wyatt. After my husband died, I learned to be strong, to keep going for Nora. But you made me want to be honest again." My chest tightened. I didn't know how to match that kind of courage. "That's a lot," I said finally. "I don't even know what I feel." "You don't have to," she said, voice hushed. "Let it be what it is." We talked for hours that night, about everything and nothing. Her teaching job, the kids who drove her crazy but made her laugh. My work, the satisfaction of watching a building rise. The hikes we both loved in the desert hills around Phoenix. It wasn't a date, not exactly, but it felt like a start. Over the following weeks, I found myself driving to her place every Saturday. Sometimes we'd tend the garden, pulling weeds or planting succulents, cool earth under our fingers. Other times, we'd grill burgers on the patio, charcoal smoke mingling with desert scents. She'd text during the week, little nothings. "Saw a hawk on my run today," or "made too much chili, want some?" And I'd smile, feeling a warmth I hadn't known I missed. One evening on her patio, sky streaked purple. My phone buzzed. "Nora, why are you over at Mom's so much?" My stomach dropped. I showed Clara the message, expecting tension, but she just sighed. "I'll talk to her," she said. "But you should too. Be honest." I called Nora the next day. She sounded upset, confused, but I kept it simple. Your mom's been a friend. I needed someone after us. Nora didn't push, but her voice cooled. Just be careful, Wyatt. I wasn't sure if she meant Clara or me. Back at Clara's, we didn't dwell. She refilled my tea, ice tinkling, and said, "Life's messy, but it's worth it when you find someone who listens." I nodded, feeling the hollow in my chest fill, not with answers, but with something quieter, truer. Phoenix's desert sunsets have this way of making everything feel timeless, like the world pauses for a breath. Clara and I started spending more weekends together, without labeling it, just letting it unfold. We'd hike South Mountain trails, gravel crunching under our boots, mingling with far-off cicada songs. The air smelled of sage and dust. Sometimes we'd stop at A Overlook, the city sprawling below, lights twinkling as the sky turned violet. It wasn't about grand gestures, no candlelit dinners or solemn vows. It was quieter, steadier, like the way Clara handed me a cold beer after a long day, or how I'd fix a wobbly kitchen chair without her asking. Our talks deepened, peeling back layers we'd kept hidden. One night on her patio, cool air laced with blooming creosote, Clara opened up about her husband. He'd been a firefighter, gone too soon from a heart attack that made no sense. "I learned to keep going," she said, voice soft but firm, finger tracing her iced tea glass. "For Nora, for me. But carrying it all alone gets lonely." I listened, chest aching, and shared my own load, growing up with an absent dad, always proving I was enough. "You are," she said, eyes fixed on mine. "You've always been enough." Those words stuck like a key turning in a lock I didn't know was there. I started seeing myself differently, not just the guy Nora cheated on, but someone who could build something new. Clara saw it too. She nudged me gently to aim higher at work, suggesting I apply for a project lead spot I'd dodged. "You're good at what you do, Wyatt," she said, voice firm but warm. "Don't sell yourself short." I helped her too, redoing garden beds, hauling soil bags in my truck, laughing covered in dirt. It felt natural, like we were filling gaps we hadn't realized were there. Nora lingered in the background. She'd moved in with Dylan, but we crossed paths once at the grocery store. Her cart full of cereals and sodas, mine with coffee and eggs. "You and Mom seem close," she said, tone clipped but not hostile. I nodded, keeping it short. "She's been a good friend." Nora didn't press, forced a tight smile, and walked away. I told Clara later, bracing for worry, but she shrugged. "She'll figure it out," she said, stirring a pot of chili on the stove, spicy aroma filling the kitchen. "We can't carry her choices." Our time together wasn't always smooth. Moments hit when doubt crept in. Was this okay? Her being Nora's mom, the age gap, the gossip if word got out? One night on her couch, an old sitcom rerun murmuring low, I asked, "You ever think it's too complicated?" She looked at me, face lit by the TV's glow. "Everything worth it is complicated," she said, "but it's only too much if you let it be." Her hand found mine, warm and sure, and the doubt slipped away like sand through fingers. A few months later, we were back on her patio, sky barred in orange and pink, air carrying a neighbor's barbecue scent. I was fixing a loose fence slat, sweat beading on my forehead, when she brought 2 iced teas, ice clinking softly. She sat on the steps, watching me work, loose hair catching the light. "Wyatt," she said, voice low but certain, "I don't know where this is going. I don't need to. But if you keep showing up, this door stays open." I set down the hammer, wiping my hands on my jeans. Her words weren't a promise or a demand. It was an invitation, one I hadn't known I was waiting for. "I'm not going anywhere," I said, meeting her gaze. "Unless you tell me to." She smiled. "Not big or for show, but real, the kind that makes you feel seen." We didn't kiss. No need. We sat there, desert afternoon wrapping around us, cicadas singing their endless hymn. It's no fairy tale. No ring, no grand proposal, no Instagram post to prove we're something. It's just us. 2 people cracked by life, her by loss, me by betrayal, who found in each other reason enough to hold on. I think of Nora sometimes, how she chose the safe, the familiar. I don't hate her for it. I just know I want more. Not perfection, not fireworks, but love that shows up, that stays, that doesn't run when things get hard. Clara taught me truth isn't just what hurts. it's what rebuilds you. She didn't just open her door that night when she told me about Nora. She cracked it wider, to something neither of us expected. And for the first time in ages, I'm not afraid to step through. In the twists of life, where betrayals slice like desert winds, one lesson stands fragile yet fierce. Truth, no matter how raw, is the only balm that rebuilds us. Picture me, Wyatt, calloused hands from the job site, crossing that familiar threshold with a bunch of wild daisies, heart full of love I thought would last. But instead of a knowing smile, it's Clara's grave gaze, my love's mother, that greets me. "We need to talk," she whispers, and worlds shatter. Nora, that joyful spark lighting my days, betrayed me with a ghost from her past, Dylan, her ex, in stolen shadows. The pain's a knife twist, a howling void where shared memories, dawn laughs, cactus walks turn to lies. Yet in that break, light creeps in. Clara, her quiet strength forged in years of widowhood, doesn't just expose the cheat, she dares the boldest truth. Budding feelings for me, this man she admires for his loyalty, his quiet care. It's no storybook romance, but a shaky bridge between scarred souls where age, blood ties, and doubts turn to allies, not shackles. I learned true love isn't fleeting sparks, but shared vulnerability in patio evenings where iced tea clinks like a quiet vow, scars becoming tattoos of hope. Life, like Phoenix's merciless desert, strips us bare to hand back the essential, strength to rise, whole and renewed. And you, friends, what truth have you faced that reshaped your heart? Share in the comments below. Your stories weave our shared thread. Hit subscribe for more soul-stirring reflections, ring the bell, and together, we'll nurture the courage blooming from hardship. See you soon for more real feels